Im nafa in the Ramah, tzadichet seif dalet, right? V'lachein im nafal chelev l'toch hatavshil. Everybody with me? Mm-hmm. Okay. Im nafal chelev l'toch hatavshil v'nitbatel ta'amo b'shishim. Tzarich litein sham mayim sonenim v'teva chelev lahakpi v'latzuf lemala al hamayim v'yisirenu misham deme'achar de'efshar lahasiro havi ki'ilu makiro tzarich lehasiro misham. Okay, so on the face of it, this is a very straightforward halacha, because something is only batel when it's not nikar. Right? If you can see it, or if it's nikar another way, so then it's not defined as part of a tarovet. So of course it's not batel. The chiddush here is that right now it's not nikar, but the physical capability exists to make it nikar. So how do I view it now? Right? So the truth is, normally you would say, we say in general, like ein l'dayan ela ma she'ein avro'o, the present situation is what's koveya. So in that sense, it is somewhat mechudash. Okay? But in any case, so the case here, the way the Ramah has it, is if there's shishim, it's already batel. It would otherwise be batel, but there's a chumrah here. Okay, what he doesn't talk about is what would be if there wasn't shishim, if it was 1 in 50. And you could then add. Then there's a potential kula here. If it's 1 in 60, then it's a chumrah. Right? That you have to take it out. If it's 1 in 50, so there's a potential kula because it's not batel. But now add water and you can take it out, and then it'll be mutter. Right? So that's not clear from the Ramah. It's actually, you can medayek that it's only if there's shishim. So it's only a chumrah, not a kula. So the Taz talks about this, okay? So he says, Mashma Sif Katan Zayin. He says, Mashma de pachot mishishim lo mahani hach takana. It's not a kula, it's only a chumrah. V'lomar she'isru davar nifrad b'fnei atzmo. What would be the kula? To say, okay, I've successfully separated the isur from the heter, okay? Then he quotes those who say, Katav b'shem Mordechai perigid anasha, takana zo afil b'deleka shishim habasar mutar shachelev tzaf lemala. V'katav atam she'ein achelev mitarev b'rotev ela tzafa lemala. V'chol she'efshar lahafrido, remember that phrase, she'efshar lahafrido legamri lo amrinam bechaticha atzma naset nevela. Okay? And then he goes on to argue with this. He quotes the Bach, B'sefer Bayit Chadash Pasak Mori Chami Mitam Zed B'Yevid Mutar Afilu I Leka Shishim. There's no shishim. You can add the cold water and remove it. Okay. V'la'aniu dati nir'ed lo lakel klal bazeh. Okay, and he disagrees, and the Taz disagrees. So we have machloket whether. One way of explaining this machloket, it could be a machloket. I suppose the first possibility is to say that the machloket is a machloket de mitziut. We don't like doing that, but right, sometimes we have to do things we don't like to do. Right? So the first possibility is that there's a machloket de mitziut. In this situation of adding the water and making the chelev coagulate on the surface, does that separate the chelev from the basar, from the tarovet, or not? Okay. All right. There's nothing to really say about that, as they say in Yiddish, oder ja oder nicht. Right. It either separates or it doesn't separate. The alternative is to say that no, there is a separation here, but the question is whether I'm matir if I can separate the isur from the heter entirely. Okay? Because there's a question about efshel sochta, right? Efshel sochta mutar asur. But even if we and how does that relate to chaticha naset nevela? Chaticha naset nevela is with regards to the piece itself. How much do I need to be mevatel the piece itself? You have a potato that was boleh iser. So if I want to be mevatel, how much do I have to mevatel? The entire potato, or only what the potato was boleh? Yes, that's the question of chaticha naset nevela b'shar isorim. efshel sochto mutar aser is, suppose I have shishim against whatever I need to have. Okay? Suppose I have shishim against the potato. Okay? But the potato itself is still nikar. So is the potato itself choser lehetero or not? That is a question of efshel sochto mutar aser. All right? So that is a stira in the mechaber. Whether we say that the original bolea is choser lehetero or not. Okay? So that question is in efshel sochto, whether it's mutar or aser. What they're talking about is a new situation, which the Taz called efshar lahafrido. Whether if maybe efshel sochto is aser, the way the Rashba says it, is that it doesn't separate when the potato goes into the next tarovet. Even if you have shishim against the potato, the isser, the potato is bolea, never totally separates. There's always a little bit left. Lo nifrad mimenu legamrei. Right, so that leaves the door open to say that maybe if theoretically we had a situation, maybe this is such a situation, where we separated it legamrei, maybe then it would be mutar.
Can you help us understand what would be a situation that could be something that couldn't be? אפשר לסוחתו לגמרי, אבל אפשר להפרידו לגמרי.
No, it would be different situations.
Yeah,
in other words,
right,
it would be some.
I'm trying to understand what kind of situation might be it אפשר להפריד.
Okay, this situation.
I find this one ma'od, as the least conception. I'm talking about reality.
Yeah.
I
don't know, when we make chicken soup every other Shabbos, right? So we take the chicken soup from 1 week and we freeze it for the next week. We use it for 2 weeks, right?
Take off the
well, I should. I always feel guilty if I don't. But you see it. But you do see that there is fat which is tzaf lamala, right?
And you would take off the fat that's tzaf lamala, and you would never confuse your chicken soup with your vegetable soup. We also do the same thing. We serve the vegetable soup to the vegetarians, and even after we've done lahafrido, right, and taken the
all right, so let's assume. Okay, I have another case.
Me, right?
I understand that it might be difficult to determine such a case. So let's talk about it theoretically. There's another case which is back in Sadi Daled, which I want to look at, which is more elegant than this case. Okay, but let's say that this is such a case. Okay, let's just assume that this is such a case. So why should efshar lahafrido be better than efshar l'sochto? Because if a little bit remains, it'll stay aser. But if you can separate it entirely and not, then it'll become mutar. So this goes back, you have to stop for a second, this goes back to how you understand chanan, right? And how you understand the din of tam ki'ikar as it relates to chanan. Right? One possibility that we had in chanan was that basically it's a way of explaining tam ki'ikar. According to Rabbeinu Tam and Rabbeinu Chaim, that what happens in tam ki'ikar is that the heter turns into isser. That's what happens as a consequence of the nitinat tam. Then it would seem that even if I could separate it legamre, the isser already occurred. I can't reverse that. But
so according to that, you don't need shenishar legam.
Right, even if it's lo nishar shum davar, there was a chalot shem isser that was created by the original blia, and there's no reason to assume that you could reverse that. Okay. Now, if, however, remember the other possibility that we saw in Chanan was that basically when something carries an isser. So the halacha is, the way the Rav put it, it's halacha in Hilchot Bitul, that if you have a potato that has tam nevela in it, in Hilchot Bitul, it's not that the potato part became aser. The potato is still, it's still a potato, right? But the halacha is, you need shishim against the entire potato. Maybe that din is d'oraisa, maybe that din is d'rabbanan. We saw a very good rationale d'rabbanan according to the Uraim, if you recall. This is a bit of chazara also. Yeah? So then the halacha is that a carrier of Isser also requires bittul. Oh, okay. So efshar l'sochto, I could say, is Asr, because it's still carrying the Isser in it, even if there's a little bit left. But efshar l'afrido, if I have such a situation where I can actually free, right, the heter from the isser, so the heter is no longer carrying the isser. The heter is no longer carrying the isser. So then, since it never became usher by itself anyway, it was just the halacha that you have to mevatel the heter. So here now you're mafreed, so it goes back to being mutar. Okay, you with me?
So you're framing this as a nafkamina between those two.
This would be a nafkamina between those two approaches. Okay. Now, so that perhaps is a machloket that we had two dayot here in the tas. Okay. Let's take a look. This case, you can dispute the mitziut of the case. It's a little
sketchy.
The
taste can go into the pots and you can't get it out, but you can.
No, they actually talk about Hagala as being a proof of efshar להפרידו.
Oh, really?
Yes, we'll talk about Hagala's kalim. They talk about Hagala that way. Okay. If we go back to Tzadi Dalit, let's see.
Efshar though is a concept that was created by the
Achronim.
By an achronim.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so let's see. Take a look at Tzadi Dalit. Seif Gimel. Okay. Okay, we have the kaf, which is chalavi, which you were tochev in a k'deira of basar. In general, k'deira means k'deira of basar. You should just know. Okay. So he says like this: Im yesh shishim levatel hakaf, right? Hak'deira v'tavshil mutarim. So you had a k'deira full of basar, and you had a kaf chalavi. And you stirred the basar with your kaf chalavi. This is not a case of not barnat. This is the real thing. So then, if there's shishim, so what's the halacha? Stop. What do you guys say? What's the halacha if there's shishim? Now, you have to realize this is the case. Okay. Now, this is also lahavin davar mitoch davar. A person that might ask you a question is not going to ask you what's the halacha with this, and this. You have to see where the halacha applies. The case is as follows. You have a milchik spoon. I'll ask you like this. Okay? A milchik spoon. You took a milchik spoon and you stirred. No, I didn't say that. I don't know anything about that. Right? Right? I'm your average balabas, right? I don't know anything. So I'm telling you this is what you have to ask. Right? The whole chachma is to know what to ask. So I had a milchik spoon and I stirred my chulent pot with my milchik spoon. What do I do? Right? What do I do?
The cholent had meat in it.
No, I'm saying it's fleshik. Right. Yeah, fleshik.
And it was boiling at the time.
It was okay. Yad soledet, bo. Okay.
And the milk spoon was ben yomo. Did you use your spoon in the last 24 hours?
Let's say it was ben yomo. Good. All right. So you have to ask about the spoon.
What
right?
kind of spoon was it?
It was a metal spoon. Okay. So you have a metal spoon in milchik. Ben yomo, right? But you have to ask, is the ben yomo is not ben yomo? And was this hot? Okay, so yes, it was hot. Okay, and I stirred it. So what does the halacha apply to? There are three questions you have to answer here: the spoon, the pot, and the food. Okay, so take it one by one, whatever order you want. What's the halacha of the spoon?
Is there shishim?
The spoon.
Oh, okay. First, we got the big question: is there shishim? So let's say that there was shishim.
But the spoon's for sure in trouble.
Right. In trouble isn't the halacha category, right? And that means the spoon is aser. It's basar b'chalav.
I said that's why.
Yes, chanan. Right. The spoon is aser. Yes.
It's basar b'chalav, or
the spoon is ben yomo. It came to direct contact with meat, so it's basar b'chalav. Okay, maybe it's an asa d'oraisa, depending.
The shishim was connected the chalav in the spoon in that case, as opposed to the next case.
I don't know any next case. We're just talking about this case. Just keep it simple. Okay, the shishim connected the spoon.
the whole spoon.
Yeah.
Okay. Unless you know how
so the spoon is aser, basar b'chalav. I knew you were going to say that. That's why I said maybe it's d'oraisa. Okay. But they deal with it as if it's d'oraisa. And they say that if there isn't shishim, by the way, if there isn't shishim against the spoon, they say the tavshil is asur b'hana, which would indicate they think it's d'oraisa. It's not only asur b'achila, it becomes asur b'hana. Generally, basar b'chalav midrabanan is asur b'achila, not b'hana. Okay, so anyway, say that as a side point. Okay, so this is the situation. So the spoon is basar b'chalav. The tavshil, there is shisha. The tavshil is mutter, correct. And the pot,
Also.
Fine.
also mutter. Good. All right, now let's continue. So I must read it again. Im yesh shishim levatel hakaf, hakdera v'tavshil mutarim, aval hakaf asur, beinim basar, beinim chalav. Right, lefi, she blua mi basar b'chalav, va'afilu b'diavad oseret. If you take this spoon now and you mix anything else with it, bein b'basar bein b'chalav, im chazu t'chavua bein b'basar bein b'chalav, kol zman shi bat yoma, as long as this spoon is a ben yomo, it asers anything else b'diavad, because it's, if it was eno ben yomo, it would only be asur l'chatchila, but mutar b'diavad, right? And the b'diavad is that you stirred with it, you have the food now, so the food would be mutar. It would be asur to use it, but the food would be mutar. If the spoon in question was an eno ben yomo, but since the spoon is a ben yomo, so that will asur, then you stir something else with it, that will asur that even b'diavad if there's no shishim.
You start ben yomo again?
Oh, this is the key point. Okay, now I want to focus on this. Okay, let's read this again now. So im chazru t'chavua bein b'basar bein b'chalav kol zman shi bat yoma ve'im ein shishim hakol asur b'hana'ah afilu hakdeira. Okay, that's as far as I want to go here. Now, how do we define? Let's think about this for a second. How do we define, with regards to this spoon, ben yomo? Because if I said, if the spoon is a ben yomo, then it's going to aser the next tavshil b'diavad. If it's not a ben yomo, then it won't aser the next tavshil. Okay, so how do we determine whether it's a ben yomo or not? What are the possibilities?
From the time it became kanan, or from the time that it originally was with the chalav.
Right.
Whatever it was originally.
Those are your two possibilities. Either from the time it became basar b'chalav, which is what's called the zman ha'tchiva, or no, it becomes eno ben yomo from the last time it was used for chalav. Okay, let's see. Okay, so now let's take a look at the shach. Ot yud. Kol zman shi bat yoma. Perush misha'at ha'tchiva. Afilu eina bat yoma misha shebishel b'chalav. Kevan שהייתה בת יומה משעת התחיבה ראשונה, נעשית נבלה, ואוסרת אחר כך אפילו בדיעבד אם היא בת יומה משעת התחיבה. ופשוט הוא. The Shach thinks this is pashut. Because when was the Isser created? When was Hanan created? Hanan was created b'shat ha-tchiva. So now the clock starts ticking. When is this spoon going to come eno ben yomo? 24 hours after the shat ha-tchiva.
Carriers wouldn't agree with this.
Hold on. Just first let's get the facts down before you jump to the lumdus, right? I don't want to say I created monsters here with lumdus. Just, right? Hold on with the lumdus, right? Just let's understand the facts. Okay? Technically speaking, so from the time that the basar b'chalav was created, that is the time we start counting. When is this basar b'chalav going to be eno ben yomo? 24 hours after the tchiva. Okay? Pashutu. Okay, now let's take a look. V'kach katav Isur Hefter, v'kama duchti, v'kach katav b'darkei Moshe, etc. Delo k'habach, the Bach again, shekatav b'sif gimel b'pshitut lahefech. He ends it pashut that what? That you start counting not from the shat ha-tchiva, but you start counting from when this spoon, the last time the spoon came into contact with the chalav. Okay? He says, "Katav pashut," that's it, and the Shach says, "Upashutu da ta'utu." Okay. Okay. Let's think for a second. What's the rationale of the Bach? The Bach is saying something very interesting. He says you have joined together, right, when the in the kaf, when you were tochev the kaf into the basar, now you have basar b'chalav in the kaf. But let's put a timer on the chalav part and on the basar part. So you have chalav, say, which is 5 hours old, okay, with basar, which is now 1 minute old, okay, and they're joined together, and that created basar b'chalav. So you had tam l'shvach of this and tam l'shvach of that, and you have basar b'chalav. Now Hazman Ratz, and the chalav is going to expire, so to speak, before the basar. So what I say, the chalav was 5 hours ahead of the basar. So let's say after 21 hours, after 19 hours, math, arithmetic was never my strong point. After 19 hours, this kaf, according to the Bach, is going to be Eino ben Yomo, because the chalav expired. And what's the isser? The isser is basar b'chalav. So, but now you only have basar l'shvach, you don't have chalav l'shvach anymore. As long as you have basar b'chalav l'shvach, those first 19 hours, so then it's ben yomo and it'll aser anything. But once you pass the 19 hours, for example, so the basar is still potent, it's still ben yomo, because it has the basar has still 24 hours, but the chalav started ticking 5 hours earlier, so the chalav has expired. So what do you have here in a sense? Here's your case of efshar להפרידו. What's good about this is I don't need to put it in a centrifuge to say I physically separated it. But halachically, I separated it because one of the elements has expired and is now Eino ben Yomo. It is no longer something which can aser. So he says, once that happens, so then all you're left is with tam basar l'shvach and not tam chalav l'shvach, and the isser is basar b'chalav, and you don't have that anymore. That's what the Bach is saying.
Wait, why didn't you say it as a carrier? I mean, the isser.
Okay, hold on. No, but it's Eino ben Yomo. So what is it?
No, the isser can only go as far as the carrier can carry it. So the chalav can't carry it anymore. So it's not isser. I mean, it's the same thing.
That's what he's saying.
But it's a different conceptualization. Like, why do you have to say efshar להפרידו? Why don't you go with the?
But this is the efshar. This is because he's mafrid legamre. It's not that I threw the basar b'chalav then into water and I know that there was shishim and that something came out. Right? That's a physical separation, and that's much messier. Right? So this is in a sense a laboratory case where you don't even have to get your hands dirty. You just have to look at your watch. Right? You say, okay, it was just nifrad, halach lo. Okay, so this is a much better case. So first of all, I want to say two things. First of all, the Bach is consistent. It was the Bach who said, quoted by the Taz in Tzadichet, he was the one that said that the heter of adding the water to the chalev, to the tavshil, and extracting the chalev is a heter for even less than shishim, because he holds efshar להפרידו is mutter. And then that would be consistent with what he says here, that here also what's happening is that the chalav becomes separated from the basar, and that makes it mutter. That's the first thing I want to say. The second thing I want to say is that the Bach here in Tzadi Dalid is much more mechudash than what's quoted in Tzadi Chet. Why?
Because if it's a question of mitzias, then
no, it has nothing to do with the fact that it's mitzias.
You see the separation in one you can't see a physical difference at all.
No, so that makes the case in Tzadi Dalid better. Because I know halachically it's a pure separation. I don't have to check any mitzias. I don't have to do microscopes, and I don't have to do anything. I don't have to postulate what a mitzias might be. I don't have to guess. Halachically it expired. That's the thing. So finished.
What's your question now?
How these two cases are really very different. I could say what I say in Tzadi Chet and still say that in Tzadi Dalid it's impossible.
Or you could say the opposite.
No. I'm saying it this way on purpose. I'm saying that in Tzadi Chet it could be reasonable that if efshar להפרידו should be mutter, but in Tzadi Dalid not. Because this is basar b'chalav. Because the whole question that we had about the nature of Hanan when we talked about shar isurim was, is it because of tam ki ikar and there's transformation and that would be like basar b'chalav, Or no, it's nothing to do with, it's not like basa b'chalav at all, and it's not, even if it's drabanan, it's not atu basa b'chalav, the way the Ran said. The Ran said that it was atu basa b'chalav, that it's something else, it's the carrier pshat. It's something else. But it, what?
They were talking about chelek. We're not talking about,
where?
Am I wrong with the, in Tzadi Chet? We're talking.
Right, in Tzadi Chet we're talking about shari surim.
But we're not talking about, are we talking about Hanan? Or are we talking
about Hanan b'shari surim, yeah.
I thought we were talking about a just question of whether chelek is batel.
No, the Taz talks about it in terms of Hanan b'shari surim, because if the whole thing became aser, but now you're extracting it, so efshar lahafrid, it's going to become mutter. So it's even if efshar l'sochto is aser, but this is efshar lahafrido. Okay, so there you can say that it becomes mutter because there was no transformation in the first place. If you understand Hanan a certain way, which is a reasonable way to understand Hanan. It's not the only way. You can understand Hanan b'shari surim as a transformation also. But you don't have to understand it that way. But in basa b'chalav, let's go to Tzadi Daled. In Tzadi Daled, we're talking about basa b'chalav. And basa b'chalav was certainly talking about a transformation. So then, this is a very big chiddush. That basa b'chalav, even though there's Hanan and basa b'chalav in Torah, everybody agrees. And the basa and the chalav became a hefter shel iser. There's a very big chiddush here. That basa b'chalav, and it's going to sound trivial, that basa b'chalav is only asur when it's basa b'chalav. In a sense, what that means is that basa b'chalav, even though when they are together, it is Hanan, and it is a hefter shel iser, when you separate them, they can be chozel leheteran. Even the basa b'chalav. That is ma'od mechudash.